Since his exoneration, Stephen and his mother, Sylvia Barnes, who again, without her work, Stephen would still be wrongfully convicted and in prison, have been speaking nationally about their experiences and have been lobbying legislators nationally to change the laws, to enact the reforms that you've heard about and you'll be hearing about later that will reduce the incidence of wrongful convictions. With that, it's my honor to introduce Stephen Barnes.
Hello, everybody hear me? I just want to thank you for having me today. I'm going to tell you what happened for my life back when I was not much older than some of you students. I'm from a small town near Utica, New York, Marcy. Back in 1985, I was a 19-year-old kid. And on September 18th, they found a young girl's body, murdered and raped, and not far from my mom's home where I grew up. Well, on the morning of they found the body, I left my mom's house and I went out about my business, and they had at the corner of the road, they had a roadblock. And they showed me a picture and asked me if I seen this girl, and I said no. She was 3 years younger than me. Wasn't an acquaintance of mine, I didn't really know her. I went about my business and went to a friend's house all day and came home on the way home about 4 or 5 o'clock. I came down the same road and I was going to stop at a discount store to get a six-pack before I went home, and I went by it and I turned around at a convenience store and there was an unmarked cop car on the payphone. He followed me into the beverage center and he asked me for my license, registration. I asked him what this was about. He said, well, we found a girl's body. I said, I went through the roadblock this morning. He asked me why my truck was muddy. Then I went home. Approximately 3 days after that, they called me in for interrogation. It was probably one of the 12th long hours of my life. I was 19 years old. I voluntarily went up there, I had nothing to hide. They started asking me questions where I was, what I did on that day. I told them what I did when I got up, so I went to bed. What the cops did is they were doing tag team interrogation. One cop would come in, interrogate me, the other one would leave, one would come in, ask me the same questions. Then they asked me to take my shirt off. They were looking for scratches. They took pictures of me, they fingerprinted me. They asked me to sign a waiver to search my vehicle. I said, no problem. I remember I asked for a phone call. I wanted to call my family. They denied me everything. They barely gave me a glass of water. After about 8.5 hours, 9 hours, they asked me if I would take a polygraph test. And they threw me in a cop car and they took me to Oneida, to the state troopers barracks. And they threw me in a room with a book and they said, here, read this. This tells you what a polygraph test was. I never knew what one was. I heard about them. Took the polygraph test, and on the way home, the cops were like, okay, you're free to go home, and would you like something to eat? I said, I don't want nothing from you people. I just want to go home, let my family know where I was. I was gone for 12 hours. From that day on, my nightmare began. Approximately 5.5 months after they interrogated me, they called me at my mom's house and asked me to go to the local hospital to give up hair and blood. Again, I said no problem, had nothing to hide. Went up to the hospital, and for the next 2 years, 2.5 years, the cops followed me. People that I thought were my friends were talking lies behind my back, telling the cops stuff. My girlfriend at the time, they questioned her quite hard and lengthily. I remember she came up to my mom's and crying. She says, they actually believe that you did this. It was approximately 3.5 years after they interrogated me. I was 22 years old. It was on March 25th, 1988. I was home with my little brother and my girlfriend at the time, and the two cops that made my life miserable and living hell for 3.5 years knocked on my mother's front door. And they said, hi, you remember us? And I said, hi, how could I ever forget you people? You made my life hell for the last 3.5 years. They said, you're under arrest for this girl. And they said a couple people come forward and pointed the finger at me. Well, my girlfriend and my brother were freaking out. I was crying. I couldn't believe this was happening. It was probably I was in like shock. They cuffed me, stuffed me, threw me in a cop car, and brought me over to the county jail. You know, the media was there. They put me all over the newspaper and the papers and the news, and I was in the county jail approximately 40 days, and they finally posted bail. It was $100,000. My mom put her house up. I got out. I always worked construction. I went right back to work when I got out on bail. I had a curfew. I couldn't really go nowhere, so I just worked and hung out with my girlfriend. And in May of 1989, I had a good lawyer in town we hired. In 1989, May, my trial started. My trial lasted for approximately 14 days. My trial was a lot of maybes, perhaps, could have beens. When I was in the county jail, I had a jailhouse informant. This guy was a professional stool pigeon, we call him. He testified in a murder trial right before mine, and he says that I was on the gallery with him. And I told him that I did this. I've never spoke to this guy. He was facing a 3 to 6. He got 6 months in the county for testifying against me. Then I had an off-duty cop. It was a Utica cop. Back in 1985, he says he was driving by where the crime scene was. He did not know who he saw or what vehicle he saw. He said after 3.5 years, his memory got better, and he picked me out of a lineup, and he picked my vehicle. What the cops did is in the lineups, they had pictures of different people. They even had my little brother in there, and they asked this off-duty cop, he says, what blonde-haired guy did you see on Mohawk Street? Well, I was the only blonde one in the whole photo lineup. Then they had a photo lineup of my trucks. My truck, all different color trucks. Mine was 3-tone, red, gray, and it had maroon in it. And they asked this guy, what maroon truck did you see? Mine was the only one that had maroon in all the photos. Then they had a lady from a crime lab in Connecticut. When they first searched my truck, they said they found a similar hair. They said they found similar dirt under my rear wells in my truck, which they went to the crime scene 2.5 years later and got a sample of the dirt. And then they said there was a similar gene imprint on the side of my truck. They had a guy testify from the gene company. He said that pattern of genes, they narrowed it down to over 2,000 pairs of jeans were sold in Oneida County that year of that pattern. Then they had a guy, when I left my mom's house that night, I was going to a bowling alley. I stopped and got gas. I had the gas station attendant. He said that I went down the crime scene area, the road. Then during the trial on the stand, he finally said he lied. He was a young guy and he got nervous, so he lied so the cops would stop questioning him. That was about the basic of my trial. It was the junk science, the jailhouse informant, the off-duty cop, and after about 13 days, they had closing arguments. My jury, I remember every day when me and my lawyer used to come in and out of court, the jury used to look at me, and my jury went out of deliberation for a little over a day, 23 hours maybe. And I remember they reached the verdict. It was on a Friday. It was June 2nd, 1989. They came in. It was about 5 o'clock in the evening. And every day the jury used to come in and look me in the eye or look at my lawyer. But they came in that day and they didn't look at us. And they asked me to stand. And the judge said, you reached the verdict? Yes, we did. They found me guilty. It was probably the saddest day of my life. I couldn't believe this was happening to me. I'd never been in trouble. I got convicted of something I didn't even do. I figured, my lawyer looked at me and said, I'm awful sorry. We tried to get a postponement, retrial. They denied everything. And I remember when my jury said guilty, they all started crying. They wouldn't interview nobody. So I tried for the next 3 months to get a retrial and everything, but nothing. They still sentenced me. They sentenced me in September to 25 to life. I was 23 years old, and I was going to state prison. I never knew nothing about prison. I was from a small town. I call prison to this day, it's hell on earth. I figure in the next few years, me and my lawyer beat this on appeal, but after I was upstate about 2 years, my trial attorney passed away. The district attorney that tried me, the assistant DA, he passed away. And I remember it was about 93, 94. There used to be a show on TV, it was called Phil Donahue Show. And I seen these two guys on TV. I was in a prison yard, I was up near Buffalo, New York. And there was Peter Neufeld and Barry Scheck, the co-founders of the Innocence Project. They were doing DNA testing. In my case, there was a rape kit, they had slides. I said, this is my, finally got some, everything's gonna happen. But after I contacted the Innocence Project, me, my mom, we wrote them a letter. They agreed to take on my case. I was the 18th person to write the Innocence Project. They agreed to take on my case, and back in them days, Innocence Project was a lot smaller than it is now. And you used to talk to Barry Scheck personally on the phone. Now you talk to associates and lawyers and staff attorneys. And my mother had to pay for the DNA testing. Well, the district attorney in that time in my area was our ex-congressman Arcuri. He was very cooperative. They had the evidence, they found it. We agreed on the lab. They came up to the jail I was at, took my blood. And after about 2 years of all this, my mother came up to visit me on a Saturday, and I had my hopes up of heading home, but it didn't turn out that way. The DNA test came back inconclusive. The technology wasn't there that we have now. So when I was dealing with the Innocence Project, there was this young girl. She was a law student. She now became a lawyer. She believed in me. She wanted to help me. She got all my stuff from the Innocence Project, and she was working out of a place called Amnesty International. She was working on my case part-time. And my mom gave her some money. She was going to put a motion in for actual innocence. But after about 2 years, I wrote her a letter one day, and my letter got sent back to me. And I couldn't find her for the longest time. I thought she just took some of my money and blew me off and forgot about me. That wasn't the case. I'll tell you later in my story what happened. But for the next 10, 12 years, my case was dormant. I always went to the law library. I always stayed busy in prison. Prison is like the same thing every day. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas, doesn't matter if it's Easter, Thanksgiving, Happy New Year, happy birthday, don't tell me good morning, none of that stuff. You're always told what to do. You basically can't really do much. I had full-time jobs. I actually was a welder. I worked maintenance. I actually studied sign language in prison, and I was an interpreter for 5 years. I haven't used it in a while, so I'm kind of rusty. But after about 17 and a half years in prison, the technology, I used to always keep abreast on DNA technology. And in 2006, they came out with YSTR DNA testing and touch DNA. So there was a convention down in Boston. Every year, the Innocence Project has a convention down in every different states throughout every year. They had one in Boston that year. My little brother drove down there and spoke on my behalf and asked the Innocence Project to reopen my case. Well, they agreed to reopen it. The district attorney in my area, he was very helpful. We had to get the evidence. Thank God they had it after almost 18 years. We had to go, they had to go find a lab. We sent it down in Texas. We all agreed on that. They came back with a reading in the middle of 2007. They said there was a couple DNA male profiles. They came up to the jail and got my DNA before that. And after they had a profile and they ran mine with the profiles they found, it was on November 21st, 2008. I had almost over 7,000 days in prison, close to 20 years. It was on a Friday. I called home on a Friday. I called my mother, and I said, she said, the Innocence Project called. Call back in a little while. I said, okay, I lock in half an hour, so I'll call back as late as I can. And I called her back, and she told me, are you sitting down? I said, no, there's no chairs by the phone. And she said, you're coming home. Well, I remember I dropped the phone, and I started screaming down the gallery, and I said, my nightmare is finally over. I got my freedom back, and I'm coming home. But I had to stay in jail the rest of the weekend. So they brought me back to court. I was out near Elmira in Southport Correctional Facility. And two officers brought me back to Oneida County Court, and I got to court, and the one judge in my county, he was the DA that was behind my case. He's now a judge. They were going to put me in front of him, but they changed it to another judge, and then Barry Scheck couldn't get in from New York City on Monday, so I didn't get out on the 24th. I got out on the 25th. It was November 25th, 2008. I went back to court. They stuck me in the county for the night. And I remember I walked into court, and I never saw so many cameras, people that I haven't seen in 20 years. Because all them years I was in prison, a lot of my friends weren't there, you know what I mean? All I had is family support. Even though I was locked up on the inside, my family was locked up on the outside. You know, it takes its toll on everybody. But we all came together, and we were at court, and it was, I remember I walked up to the podium, and I had all the prison jewelry on, and the judge, he said to me, I don't know his exact words, because I was kind of, my heart was going 100 miles an hour, and I remember him saying, take the cuffs and everything off, and I'm vacating your sentence. So that I remember they took all the prison jewelry off, and they dropped the chains and everything on the floor, and you could hear a pin drop in that courtroom. We had a press conference after, and all the reporters were asking me, you know, what are you going to do for your first meal? What are you going to... And I says, you know, when I got out, the world moved on, but I didn't, so I was behind time. I was back in the 80s. So when I got out in the 2000s, I seen people with all these cell phones I knew nothing about. I didn't have any access to the internet. We didn't have no we had computers, but everything was on disk. We didn't have internet access. You got Facebook now. You got technology came a long way, just like the DNA technology. But I remember I went to a local restaurant. We had dinner. My staff attorney and my family, and Barry Scheck was there. And I remember I was going home to my mom's house, and I couldn't believe the neighborhood I grew up in, how much it changed in 20 years. Buildings were tore down, houses were put up, apartment buildings, trees were bigger. My friends I haven't seen in a long time were a little grayer, a little older. I had to start my life over. When you get I was like a 16-year-old kid, because everything I had to start all over with getting my license and everything. But I had a few interviews after I got out of prison, and after my first Thanksgiving home in 20 years, and then I had my first Christmas, because I never celebrated holidays in prison. And on January 9th of 2009, they brought me back to court. And the district attorney, he brought me to his office, and he had nothing to do with my case. He was in law school when I went to trial. And he told me in his office, and he told me on public TV, right on TV, he said, Mr. Barnes, he says, I believe our system is the best in the country, but for that, it failed you, and for that, I am awful sorry. And he shook my hand, and I shook his hand. And I was, like I had no record. I was free to go home and live my life. When you get exonerated, they drop you off at court. But when you get paroled, they give you a license, they give you an ID card, they give you money. But when you get exonerated, they don't give you nothing. So I thank God I had family and I had community support to help me. I had to get my license, I had to get a photo ID, I had to get my Social Security, my birth certificate. I had to take my road test over. I got in the car and I was looking for the dimmer switch on the floor. Now it's on the steering wheel. You know, little things like that. Approximately, I got out November 25th. I was number 227th in the country. I've been out a little over 3 years this past November. I was number 24 in New York State. The Innocence Project is like my second family. Whenever they ask me to speak or do fundraisings, I always there for them. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. My DNA testing was probably one of the most expensive. It was almost $40,000 they paid to have the DNA testing. And it was the new DNA technology. Since I've been out, I work for the county. They gave me a job, my district attorney and my county executive in my area gave me a job. I was only out 6 months, and my first job, I worked re-entry. I used to work with inmates getting out of prison. I did that for about 6 months. Then I ran a summer youth program. I got 600 kids in my county, summer youth jobs from when they're out from high school. Then from there, I went on to a job. We have all my programs are federally or state funded. We had a job, a group of kids. It was a grant called Youth Build. These kids were 19 to 21, 22-year-olds. They were all troubled kids. They were thrown out of the local high school. We'd get them their GED, and me and 2 other guys we actually built the house with Habitat for Humanity. We'd go around the city of Utica working for nonprofit organizations, painting, remodeling houses. I did that for a couple years. We're getting ready to renew the program, where I'm going to go back on summer youth. I spoke in a lot of colleges in the area. I've been down to Skidmore, Colgate, Hamilton. I've been to, me and Peter Neufeld went to Washington, D.C. He spoke about the junk science in my case. My case was aired on America's Most Wanted twice. I was on it. They still have not. They've been doing DNA testing on individuals, but they have still not found the real person or persons that did this. Like the Innocence Project always says that they'd rather let 10 guilty people free than have one innocent guy locked up, because in a lot of cases, that person that's running free all them years while the innocent guy is locked up, they're out there committing more crimes. In my 3.5 years, last year I went down to Alaska. I spoke for the Innocence Project down there. A couple weeks ago, I was just down in Kansas City. They had the Innocence Project down there. I've been out 3.5 years. They got another 40-something guys out after me. They got another 4 in New York State. It happens a lot. A lot of people don't realize there is a lot of innocent people in prison. I'm not saying everybody is, but it can happen to anybody. You know, I had never had a record. Ever since that day they questioned me in that roadblock, and that's how my nightmare started. And I had people that I thought were my friends. I didn't have any friends. Even when I was in prison all them years, I just had associates. I always stuck to myself. You know, there was a lot of violence in prison. I seen crazy stuff. Only the strong survive in there. I'm 46 years old now. It seems like I've been on the street 3.5 years. It seems like I've been out here maybe 10 years. Time out here goes a lot faster than in a penitentiary. There's so much more to do. You got your freedom. You can go here. You can go here. In prison, you're just locked down. You can't really minimum to go anywhere. The food's garbage. I used to make $21 for a 40-hour week. You're only a number. My number was 89C1152. I'll never forget that number. I forgot my Social Security number when I got out. But I never forgot my prison number, because everything in prison was associated with your number. You didn't really have a name. But it's, I'm just, thankful that the Innocence Project reopen my case. I remember when I got out in court, they used my old number, number 18. I met a lot of exonerees since I've been out at these conventions, and you always think your situation's worse, but I met guys that did a lot of death row time. You know, like with the Innocence Project, when I got out, they assigned me a social worker, and I used to talk to her, and because I had to readjust back into society. It wasn't, you know, I was like prison smart. I wasn't street smart, and everything out here was a little different to me because I was gone for all them years. But the Innocence Project helped me in that, and they helped me out financially a little bit till I got on my feet. And a lot of people always ask me, did the state compensate you? Yes, they did. They just didn't say, here, Mr. Barnes, here's some money. I had to go to court. And I always tell people, what price would you put on your life for 20 years? I lost 7 years in my 20s, every day in my 30s, and 3 years in my 40s. Those are the prime years of your life. People get married, have careers, go to college. I went off to prison for no reason. I didn't ask for my life. My life got handed to me. I was wrongly incarcerated. I got my freedom back now in my life. I wake up every morning like it's Christmas morning. Freedom is good. Life is good. I bought myself in my own house. I work every day. I feel good at the end of the day when some of my students come up to me and say, thank you, Mr. Barnes, you changed my life. I got my GED. I got a few of them rolled into college. I'm just hoping someday in my case, my old case, that there's closure, you know, because what happened to this girl and what happened to me, two wrongs don't make it right. My family had to live through what happened to me, and her family had to live what happened to her. And the district attorney in my area, me and him are good friends. We actually did talks together. We're actually almost similar in age. He was very cooperative. The only person that has not said anything to me, he is now a judge in my county, and he was the DA at the time. I see him every morning. My office is right across from the courtroom. I park my truck in the parking lot where I got released from, right in the courtroom. I look out my office window, and there's the courtroom where I walked out. It's just, and the two cops that interrogated me all the years, and they retired. The new cops on the case tried to call them. They wouldn't return their calls. They went and interviewed the cop that was an off-duty cop that wanted to say his memory was better after 3.5 years, and he said, he's 85 years old now, and he told the investigators, it's my story and I'm sticking to it, and he slammed his front door. He was running for undersheriff that year with the other sheriff. 3 people admitted they lied since I've been out in my trial. Nothing can happen to them because of statute of limitation after 10 years. The investigator called me over last year, and they tested their hair. They said it was similar to hers. Well, they called me over there last year, and the investigator told me that hair was mine. And they always said all the years it was similar to hers. It was my hair. They lied about it. You know, everybody says you're not bitter, you don't hate people. I lived in a hateful environment for all these years. I'm trying to move on with my life. I'll never forget what happened to me. I forget what they did to me. I almost spent more time in prison than I did on the street. It happens a lot. Like I said, life is good now, and I do a lot of travel and I do a lot of speaking. Like the Innocence Project calls me up, will you come down? And I'm on the next train down because they're like my second family. And it's just, they're awesome people, man. When I first started dealing, like I said, they used to talk to Peter and Barry on the phone personally, but now there's 50 people on staff down there. They have all staff attorneys. You know, it happens a lot. Like New York State, Texas is the highest exonerees, Texas, Illinois, and New York State. My case was all junk science. The jailhouse informant and an off-duty cop that said his mind was better after 3.5 years. He had 3 different stories from when it first happened, the grand jury, then trial started. I just wish that my trial lawyer was still around, his widow is still around, and she told me when I got out, she says his name was Cap Slot. She said, Cap, he's looking down on you. And he always believed in me. And my family always believed in me. And thank God, after I did 19 years, 10 months, and a couple weeks, over 7,000 days of my life. And the truth set me free, and I got my life back. And I still have a lot of life left. I'm still young. I'm only 46. I always tell people life begins at 40. You know, I kind of, you know, I'm so busy a lot. I kind of bring prison habits home. I kind of live by myself still. I don't have a lot of food in my refrigerator. You know, I'm kind of, sometimes I think I'm still in the penitentiary. I remember when I first got out, I was sleeping on my mom's couch because I slept on a steel bed, was about the width of the couch. And I used to get up in the middle of the night, and I used to go to the front door, and I used to thought it was my gate, and I'd be on the bars like this, and my mother used to wake me up, and she'd say, you're home, and then I'd wake up, and you know, and I used to talk to the social worker and other people, and you know, it's kind of got my adjusted back into society, and like I said, I had a lot of community support, a lot of guys that get exonerated, and the district attorneys, and there's no people that want to fight you tooth and nail. My case was, I was one of the unfortunate ones. I got a public apology. Other exonerees have, but nobody wants to admit they're wrong. Like I said, my district attorney said he was sorry, but he had nothing to do with it. And I thought that was, you know, very respectful of him to say he was sorry, and the system failed me, and it failed many others. I just want to thank you for listening to my story, and I want to thank you for having me, and thank you for listening to my situation here. And I don't know if we have time for questions. I'm sure probably somebody does have questions, but so. Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. 1 second. I always forget this. The lawyer that was the law student I told you that worked on my case, she became a lawyer. After the Innocence Project reopened my case for the second time, they investigated it, and she got in a car accident. She was in a coma. She's been in a coma since like 2003 or 4, and she doesn't know I'm out. She still has all my paperwork, my trial transcripts. Thank God my mother had another case file in the attic to give to the Innocence Project to reopen my case. So I hopefully someday she'll come out of her coma and I can meet her, because I used to talk to her on the phone a lot. And, so, sorry I forgot to put that in. Yes? Oh. Did I see I didn't see no. No, I went through a roadblock and they showed me a picture of the girl.
Oh,
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
just going to thank you for sharing with us, and then I was going to ask about what happened to the lady.
Yeah, I forget this. Yeah. Yes.
Did you ever make it to a minimum or a medium security?
No, I was always in maxes. I had 25 to life, so after 20 years, you have 5 years to the board. You go to a medium, but I came home. Plus, there was mediums in my area, and I know a few of my friends are correction officers, and they probably wouldn't move me that close to home. So I always was in maxes. I'd prefer a max because your own cell. Mediums are dorm settings with 60 or over 120 guys in a big dorm. So. Yeah.
They always say that hindsight is 20/20. Looking back, is there anything that you would have had done differently in your defense case?
No, not before one thing I would have did when they called me up for questioning, I would have went with an attorney. I would have answered nothing, but I never been in trouble before. I had nothing to hide. I would have said, let me call my attorney and we'll go up there and answer questions. Plus, I wish in my county now, they film they film interrogations. I've been out to Albany at the Capitol, and they just come out with that wrongful conviction bill where they want to extend the DNA data bank. That really, they wanted to put filming interrogations and how they do photo lineups. The governor's still thinking about putting that on the bill. But my district attorney in my area, they film 85% of the interrogations now. I wish they did that in my case, but they didn't do that back then. So I can try to fight for it now. So, yeah.
Did you ever get in touch with your friend again?
My friend?
With your friends?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when I got out, we had a big party when I turned 43, I think it was. And they raised over $7,000 they raised for me, and I put it on down payment on a truck when I first got out. And I continue to hang out with some of my buddies now. My ex-girlfriend that was with me years ago, I ran into her when I got out, and her and her new husband were very nice to me. They helped out with the party. We still text each other. I do a lot of that texting now. It's very nice. You don't have to talk to somebody, you can just text. I can tell you right now, I'm a professional texter. Yeah.
Do you think you'll take the neurobiological trauma with you to your grave that this experience created?
Probably. You know, I could say no, but I probably will. It's just tough, you know, something you'll never forget, you know what I mean? They wrecked my life for 20 years, you know what I mean? And what I seen in prison and how I was forced to live is, you know, it would traumatize anybody, really. It's sad. I never thought when I was put on this earth that I'd end up in prison all them years. I was a good kid. I went to Catholic school, was an altar boy. You know, I was a typical teenager, having fun, doing my thing. I never had any, I think I had a parking ticket my whole life. But, yeah.
You seem very content with what happened. After you were released, how long did it take you to accept what happened? Because I'd still be really bitter.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. I just, like I said earlier, I don't want to hold all that hatred and bitterness in. I just want to move on with my life, and I'm hoping there's closure in this case. So, for my family, her family, and the district attorney's office, so, you know, everybody can move on. I moved on with my life, but I actually haven't seen the cops that made my life miserable. They're not two of my favorite persons in life, but the girl's family had personally never said nothing to me, but they put a thing in the paper and they said that their heart goes out to me and they wish me all the best. Yeah, when we were filming America's Most Wanted, they had it all in the paper and they put a little quote in the paper for me, so. Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah.
Did the people who lied, did they ever say why they lied?
No, well, the one guy that was he worked at the gas station, he said he was a young kid and he was nervous, so he just told what the cops wanted to hear. Other people, they didn't say why they lied. One guy lied, he was good families with the girl's family. You know, they never really came out and said why they lied. They just, you know, nothing can happen to them because there's a statute of limitation on everything after 10 years.
And with your contact with other exonerees, that same question, I'm kind of fascinated how people lie in these cases for what reason? Just because they want to win, I suppose?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, some of them are coerced, some of them have charges pending. Like the jailhouse informant, in my case, he got, there's an old game show that used to be on TV called Let's Make a Deal, Monty Hall. The cops do that a lot, you know what I mean? When I got out on bail, they went down the gallery and asked 20 guys, you know, say something about Mr. Barnes and you could wake up tomorrow morning and be home. It's just the way they do. They want the conviction and they try to do it whatever way possible. Is it the right way? No, it's not. You know, it's like in my case with the jury. You know, the jury, I think they always just think, well, they wouldn't arrest this guy. He's probably did something. You know. You know, like my jury, they all started crying. I ran into one of the grand jury jurors when I got out. I seen her in a restaurant, and she was sitting there. And I'm from a small town, so everybody basically knows who I am. And she said, "Mr. Barnes," and she started crying. And I says, "Yes." She says, "I just want to tell you that I was on the grand jury that indicted you." And I basically told her, I says, you know, I'm living my life. You go live your life. And she gave me her phone number, and she said she was awful sorry. And I said, you know, in a grand jury, they only hear one side of the story. So, and I've never seen her again. That was like 2-3 years ago. So, yeah.
Maybe I missed it, but you talked about being questioned for 12 hours or close to that. Did you make any admissions or any statements in there that they used against you?
No. They just asked me what I did on that day, and I told them over and over. And I remember the cops came in a room, and one would leave and one come in, and they'd slam their hand down on the desk, and they'd look at me in the eye and point me in the face, and they said, "You're effing lying." And I remember I jumped up, and I said, "I'm not effing lying. You know what I mean? I'm telling you the truth." And he would leave, and another one would come in and start interrogating me again. And it's like a tag team interrogation. It was just, it went in and out, and, you know. But if they ever call me and ask me questions now, I'd say, "I'm becoming my attorney. I'm not going in there volunteering." I was a 19-year-old kid. I said I had nothing to hide. And I went in there telling the truth, and I got sent upstate, you know what I mean? And
In their questioning, did they give you any details about this case?
no, they just kept saying, "Where was I? You did this." Then they searched my vehicle. I remember signing a waiver, then the polygraph test. It was probably the worst 12 hours of my life. I never experienced something like that in my life. But, yeah.
Did they tell you you would fail the polygraph?
No, they said it came back inconclusive. Because I guess polygraph works on your nerves and all that stuff. And after I was interrogated for 10 hours, I was a nervous wreck. You're accusing me of something I didn't do, and then you want me to... And I told my lawyer as time went on, I said I'd take another one, but they never did. They say they're not admissible in court, you know, but, so.
Okay, we can take one more question?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Maybe I missed it. Did you ever testify at your trial? And if not, what was going through your mind? Because from what you're telling us, you didn't give anything to the cops that they could have used.
Yeah, no, in my trial, my lawyer told me, he said, "Don't take the stand," so I didn't. I wish I did. What I know now and what I didn't know then, it'd be a lot different. My trial attorney was a good guy, but they all make mistakes. One thing during my trial, my trial attorney used to go out and have drinks with the district assistant DA that was trying my case, and I'd say to I said, "This kind of bothers me that this guy's trying to put me away and you're out having," he said, "Oh, we're good friends," you know what I mean? And I says, "Well, in this situation, you don't have friends, you know, you're fighting for my life." And, but, you know, they're both not here today. I don't want to talk about them too much. You know, God rest their souls. So, just want to thank everybody.